think we're good to go now. Make sure I think I got it right this time, man. Make sure, make sure. I think I got it right this time. We'll see. Because last time I had no mic and I was mic'd up. Battery went dead. But again, if you've never seen any of my content, if you maybe you have, but if you haven't, my name is Christopher Life Willers, and in 2003, I was sentenced to 144 years as a first-time offender, as a veteran of the United States Air Force, for a crime which I was the driver. It was a robbery. A BB gun was used. I didn't get out the vehicle. Nobody was physically harmed. I do respect and understand mental and emotional trauma, but I was given 144 years nonetheless, all suspended with 19. Um, I use my story to narrate the truth about what rehabilitation looks like in the United States, what the justice system looks like, what the impacts of long term incarceration is, and more. And today, I want to talk about the mental impact or the trauma it has on somebody's mind when they're coming home from prison and walking into the pandemic. I swear there should be a study for those individuals that did time um, and walked straight into the pandemic. There should definitely be some sort of understanding um, of what the impact of the trauma it was um, that was on a person's mental when they came home from prison during the pandemic. I tell people all the time when I get the opportunity to talk about it. When I came home, grateful nonetheless, but imagine trying to build a foundation, right? Take a steady step forward in a world that didn't know what tomorrow may bring. It was crazy. Imagine going to your probation officer and they're telling you, yo, you need to have a job, but they're shutting all the jobs down. And yet they're still not trying to hear anything. It was a very real situation. You understand what I'm saying? We got people in the chat. Yosa said, me and my wife separated after the pandemic. I feel you. The impact of the pandemic on individuals' minds, not just their families. You understand what I'm saying? But their minds, how people still have yet to bounce back mentally from what happened during the pandemic. It should be studied. If it probably already is. But imagine coming home from long-term incarceration and then walking into that environment. It's compounded. You understand what I'm saying? My I remember talking to the the dogs was going crazy out there. I remember talking to the woman that would become my wife and telling her specifically before I was getting ready to come home, I can't wait to take a breath of fresh air. I can't wait to decompress. I can't wait to be in an environment that isn't prison. I was grateful for this. I was excited. I just wanted to be outside of that environment because imagine being somewhere you didn't want to be for 17 years. And then on top of that, it was negative. It was hostile. It was full of anxiety. It was full of depression. It was full of negativity, all that. You want to get out of there. You know what I'm saying? It's it's as if you cannot wait to live again. Because when you're in that environment, for me, I felt dead. I felt I could justify it and I could say I was able to accomplish, and I was. I could say that I was able to help people in there. I was able to say I found myself in prison. I could say all those things and they're true, but it does not take away from what I felt inside. And I remember coming home and to put things into perspective, like I was saying, I was gone for so long that when I got locked up, it was Nextel chirps, the yellow ones. Facebook didn't exist. When I came home, it was iPhones and Androids. social media everywhere. You understand what I'm saying? It was a very, very real and surreal situation. It was very hard to adjust. It was very hard to just translate how much society had changed. The emotional impact that it had on me after being gone for almost 2 decades, well, over a decade and a half, 16 years and 11 months was enough. Then it was shock after shock when it came to things like technology, people's mentality, the culture shifts, all of that just became that. It's very hard to adjust. It's very hard to go forward when you're in a world that's chaotic. So coming home, I had not only had to readjust to how things had shifted and changed, but now I was in an environment where the pandemic was here. I was in a situation in a moment that was unlike any other time in our global history. People will say, "Well, we had the Black Plague back in the day." I don't remember that. I wasn't alive then, but what I can tell you is globally, the pandemic was a very, very real thing. I can tell you that unfortunately, in prayers and condolences to the families, there are tables that are empty a seat or two because every day on the news the numbers were going up. So imagine in the midst of this, and this isn't a boohoo story for myself, this is just me speaking to the point. Imagine coming home from prison and you're expecting to decompress. You want to take that breath of fresh air. You're swimming towards the surface, so to say, and when you break surface, somebody just starts dumping water on your head, so it's hard to take that breath. And that's what it was like. It was a very different time. Imagine going to people and saying, "Hey, how do you do it?" They're not trying to give you no insight and information because they're trying to figure out how them and their families can survive to the next day. They're more concerned about survival. You have the task of surviving and readjusting. My probation officer kept telling me, "Yo, you need a job, you need a job," but they were shutting everything down. What sense did it make? On top of that, there's in where at least where I'm at, there's probation fees. You have to pay to be supervised. There's an additional pressure if you're unable to pay your fines, and you got to still do it through JPay, which I'll be damned is one of the most traumatizing things I'd say so to myself after coming home, having to still utilize that service. Just being real, it was a different time, y'all. It was a different place. It was a moment where guess what? It was sink or swim. It was fight or flight. There was no breath of fresh air. There was no decompression. It was just that. Now, mix that on top with the fact the only job that I could get during the pandemic was a garbage man position. And I'm grateful that I was on the back of that garbage truck. But you're handling everybody's filth in one of the biggest cities. You know what I'm saying? And you trying to hold it down and you just trying to pay the bills. But now, on top of readjusting, now on top of just trying to stay alive and nearly being being catching a virus. So now you're hoping you don't bring it home to your wife, your elderly mother, whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? It was different. Yosef said, "Bro, you said social media was tough. I feel you. I believe it's dangerous to humans' health. I believe when you do different things on social media over and over again, it's conditioning the mind to be negative in some cases, maybe positive for certain individuals. My timelines or whatever are very positive and motivational, but I believe, regardless, it disconnects you from nature. It takes you away. It takes your attention away from certain things. I do take that. Ladies at iTalk, great interview on iTalk. We appreciate your time. Thank you, man. Appreciate the support. Thank you for having me up there on the platform for sure. Um, and shout out to everybody, man. We just did a big interview on Matt Cox True Crime. Make sure you check out that interview. It's like 2.5 hours long. Make sure you check out the interview on iTalk. Um, Another good interview, great interview right there, man. Support the platform, support the people that are allowing the stories that matter to be told, y'all. Um, but yeah, coming home, trying to readjust, you know, trying to get on your feet financially when everything was in dire distress financially. Um, it was a bad situation. I couldn't get unemployment because my work history, the gap. There were several things that were working against me, but at least I had the garbage truck. But man, it was stressful. I guess what I'm saying is because obviously if I'm here and I'm speaking to it, I made it through. But man, they have to do that study. They have to identify how the pandemic has impacted individuals that were coming home from incarceration and walking right into it. It was different. It was different, man. I still don't know if anybody has had the opportunity that came home during that time period to decompress when you think about it. But nonetheless, if you're seeing this, we're here. Keep readjusting, keep going to where the peace is, the strength, etc. Man, keep going, and we got this. I gotta believe that for sure. I'll catch up with y'all. Peace.